McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
Owen with a kick to full forward, Cloak, not quite, Blair, Collingwood back in front.
The seed, he delays the give, Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! Poor fans can't bear to watch. They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm has erupted. Oh, who else? McDonald.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that currently we are living in a world where the Hawthorn Hawks are the best team in the league. Who would have thought that was going to be the case 2 rounds in? And I mean, top of the ladder, best team in the league. Essentially the same thing, right?
I don't know if I would go that far, sir, but definitely,
Maybe not.
if you can find somebody that willingly will put their hand up saying that they saw the Hawks being 2-0 after the first 2 rounds of the season, I want to shake your hand, sir, because you are certifiably insane, but yet the smartest man on the planet.
Oh, I love how it works. What a round that round 2 was. Between the upsets, between one of the greatest moments in league history with Buddy Franklin kicking his 1,000th goal. Man, what a night, what a week this was, and we have a lot to get into, but thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the best in the business, footy correspondent, Coach Donnie, and especially you being a Swans fan of all, I'm sure we had a pretty good time this round.
Oh, let's just safe to say it was 6:15, 6:20 in the morning when Buddy kicked that goal. And yes, I may have been at work, and I'm outing myself a little bit. Thank God my employer is probably not watching this, but I was probably doing everything I could not to run around my condo, just jumping up and down, so excited for the great man to kick his 1,000th AFL VFL goal. It was absolutely outstanding. Yes, when looking back in hindsight, was a tiny bit terrifying how many people came onto the ground and how little security actually got there. But even in hindsight, looking at it, the pictures were amazing. Nobody got hurt. There were a few crazy stories, including one couple spreading the ashes of their nan or grandmother on the ground during that particular run out. I heard there was a picnic with champagne was put out there. There was a marriage proposal as well. So there was a few interesting acts, shall we say, on the ground after that happened, and a 30-minute delay. But in the long run, the Swans get the win. Buddy gets his 1,000th goal, and as a Swans fan, I am elated, not only because he got his 1,000, but now, ladies and gentlemen, the Swans can now just play footy. They don't have to focus on getting Buddy his 1,000. And as well as they played in that game against the Cats there, think about that now they don't have to worry about it. They can play footy. And as well as the Swans played against the Cats. Now, I will also state this too. I don't think the Cats played as well as they did against the Bombers. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. But it leads into a cracking game in less than 12 hours from when we're chatting as the Western Bulldogs take on the Swans at Marvel Stadium, with the Swans having a chance to go 3-0 and the Doggies having a chance to be 0-3 after the first 3 games of the season.
So Hawthorn have the chance to go 3-0. We got the Doggies maybe going 0-3. Oh boy, round 3 is going to be a whole lot of fun. But what we got for you guys today is, of course, lovely overreactions, including Hawthorn, the Swans, and already we might have a lock for the Brownlow. Do we? I don't know. I guess we'll have to get to that one. Right now, we have 4 2021 finals teams that have started the season 0-2. Who has the most hope and who is in trouble there? And a little bit of controversy being brewed up once again for debutants being medical subs. And of course, we got a little what the blank action, including Dustin Martin and the next AFL superstar. And then Donnie's team of the round, our tips, and our little preview for round 3. But we're going to kick things off with the overreactions of the week. Are they overreactions, or are maybe they actually onto something? We will see, and Donnie will be the judge, jury, and executioner for each one of these statements. But we're going to start off with the Brownlow talk. Right now, it's pretty safe to say that the top two front runners for this award is Crippa, and it's going to be Christian Petracca. So, segment number one, though, Donnie, Cripps is a lock for the Brownlow.
Oh, I love these round two, and he's a lock for the Brownlow. Do I think Cripps got all? Do I think Cripps got all 6 votes in the first 2 games? It's hard to argue that he didn't with as well as he played, and that's
he's looking amazing, man.
But again, there's 20 games still to play. Whether he's the lock or not, we'll have to see. Again, Petracca also, it's hard for me to argue Petracca didn't get 6 votes. So right now, you've got a tie for the Brownlow. So if Crippa continues to play the way he's playing, it's going to be hard to deny him that. But again, you've got Sam Walsh on your team, and Sam Walsh sometimes can have performances. If Crippa has a bad game and Walsh has a good game, there goes 3 points the other way. So it's still really up in the air. And you could almost say the same argument for Melbourne with Clayton Oliver. So is there a shot? Yes. I mean, Crippa's got a great shot the way he started. Again, long season, still 20 games still to play. Right now, yes, it's hard to say that Crippa is not a lock, but I say let's tone down this a little bit because there are still 20 games to play, and you don't know what can happen. A suspension could throw this all out of the works. I mean, Crippa gets suspended for a game. Bye best and fairest, because you can't win best and fairest if you get suspended. So it's a great topic to bring up because it makes you think. But right now I'm lock. No, good chance. He's on the right track.
All it takes, he can have an amazing season, but once again, all it does take is maybe, just an arm or an incidental contact situation that gets you in a little bit of trouble with the league. So you never fully know, or you can just be constantly persecuted like the almighty Toby Green. He's never done anything wrong, never assaulted an umpire in his life, and he is an innocent man. No bias here. Absolutely not.
No charcoal and orange biased at all, ladies and gentlemen. None at all.
I might have to just cover the camera there. I swear. I'm not even. The colors are perfect. But statement number 2, kind of what I talked about at the beginning of the show, is the Hawthorn Hawks are 2-0, most recently after knocking off Port Adelaide. So, they're at the top of the league right now, Donnie. And statement number 2, Hawthorn will finish top 4 this season.
Oh, this is an overreaction because all due respect to Hawthorn, again, great footy. I mean, Coach Mitchell, Sam Mitchell has got his guys up and about, and I appreciate that. I love seeing Hawthorn, a team that for the longest time was such a great club, that they've kind of had a few down years. I mean, to be completely honest, now was the transfer to Sam Mitchell smooth? No, it was about as smooth as a curling ice, which is not smooth at all. So
really,
yeah, it's they're pebbled. That's why they do the sweeping. So yeah, you learned something today, right?
Oh well, okay. I was not expecting to learn a little bit more about curling. I love it.
All right,
the genius
on the Hawks. I don't want to be disingenuous in this, but I kind of put an asterisk near their 2-0 because they played North, who just barely beat a waffle team this week, and then a Port Adelaide team that, quite frankly, if we're honest, is not the Port that we saw last year because Dixon's not there, Alir's not here, Robbie Gray's not there. None of them are playing really well, and Port played like absolute. Let's just be honest, they played like shit. Let's just be honest.
It wasn't pretty.
It was bowling shoe ugly, and I've said that before, and it's one of my favorite quotes in that situation. They were bowling shoe ugly, and they were supposed to be representing. It was supposed to be Russell Ebert night, who was one of their club greats when they played in the Sample. So it was all around a horrible game, and I know some of the Port fans that I've talked to, they're not happy. It's just safe to say Coach Hinckley, his seat, if it were a skillet, could cook a grilled cheese in about 10 seconds. That's how hot his seat is right now. On Hawthorn, are they going to be a top 4 team? I don't think so. honestly, I'd almost be a tiny bit scared. You got a Carlton team that may humble this Hawthorn team, and all this talk about Hawthorn being a great could go bye-bye quickly. But I don't know. Again, it's we can sit here and we can gauge North and Port, but now we get to gauge them against a team that I think a lot of people are on that bandwagon now of, is Carlton legit this year? And after 2 games against 2 good teams, it's hard to argue that they don't have this isn't one of those where if Hawthorn pulls this off against Carlton, then that particular quote there may be true. They have a chance to be a top 4 team if they can knock off Carlton. But if Carlton smacks them by 70, then what's the quote?
See, Hawthorn in top 4 definitely seems like over exaggeration. It's the current, but I do think there's a legitimate, I guess, argument for them to be a finals team, though, to finish just in the top 8. Because if they look anything like this, and we all know it's going to be a bloodbath there, even just fine for the 8th spot, given the competitive level, the competition level we are probably going to see this season, what we've seen through the first couple rounds at least, you could probably be around a 500 team and have the chance to still make it in for the 8th spot just on percentage points alone. And Hawthorn looking great right now percentage-wise. They could carry that through the season. As of right now, I do think they're a legitimate threat to the finals.
Yeah, I'm again, it's still 20 games of footy. There's so many things that could change. 2 or 3 injuries the right way, and this Hawthorn team could flip on its head.
Then they'll just be like Port Adelaide.
And that's kind of the way the entire league is. Sometimes a couple of injuries in just the right spots can completely and absolutely derail any team. So, again, is it a great story to start the year that all the new coaches, Michael Voss, Sam Mitchell, and the Collingwood coach, I'm totally losing his name right now. All 3 of the new coaches are all 2-0. All 3 of their teams are in the 8 as we speak of right now. How crazy is that? Because, again, I don't think many people are going to raise their hand, said, yeah, I saw Collingwood, Carlton, and Hawthorn in the top 8 after round 2. You're not going to get too many people raising their hand on that one. So, again,
with the way the rookie coach is performing, these veterans might be a little bit worried. Some of them might be worried about the job, man.
But you could also
probably
again,
not.
Let's temper our expectations as well, because Collingwood's 2 games haven't been exactly against great teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, St. Kilda was one of your wins in the first round in the first week. A St. Kilda team that I think a lot of people kind of looked at and went, okay, yeah. So I mean, that's kind of the way this year has been. It's like it all kind of depends on who you've played as of right now. It's not really how your results are, because I mean, St. Kilda and Adelaide, it's not exactly your barn buster, your top 4 type of teams. I mean, it's not like they went through Western Bulldogs and Melbourne in the first 2 games of the season. I mean, so that's kind of your difference there. So it's like I take it with a grain of salt a little bit, but I mean, you're happy for them.
Oh yeah. Hey, one thing I am happy about is, as long as we're talking about St. Kilda, I am loving my tip for them over Freo this round, also with North Melbourne. Shout out to you guys for making me look smart for once. Duly appreciated. But the last overreaction we got for you, Donnie, is, and I'm not sure if this is exactly an overreaction, but your Sydney Swans are the flag favorites after 2 rounds of footy. Right now, in terms of the ladder, they sit at number 3, by percentage points. A little bit. I mean, Hawthorn has a giant lead, has about a 30-point lead over the number 2 Collingwood. Sydney is about 10 points behind them, and they're about a couple points ahead of Melbourne at this point. So, overreaction or not?
Oh, again, 2 rounds. I wish the overreaction wasn't as easy. Until I see Sydney versus Melbourne, until I see Sydney versus Carlton, I will say overreaction on this one is as much of a Swans nuffy as I am at times.
Still roll with Melbourne as the favorites?
I almost it's the Western Bulldog game in a few hours. It's the Carlton game. It's the Melbourne game. I mean, it's those games that are really going to test. It's the Brisbane Lions. It's those 4 teams right now. It's hard to argue that those aren't. All of these teams are right in that same little category. Now that Port's kind of fallen off, it's who kind of fills that spot that Port's kind of fallen out from. Is Sydney a flag contender? Yes, I think they've got the right mix. They've got a young squad. They've got a buddy fit and firing Buddy Franklin, which few teams have a guy like
scary.
that. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the thing that, for me, are they a flag contender? Yes. Are they flag favorites? Melbourne is going to have that mantra until somebody knocks them off, and then we'll kind of see how Melbourne responds. Because last year Melbourne had that dip, and then they came good, very good, come finals time. So, and my worry a little bit with Sydney is I don't know if they match up well with Melbourne's midfield, considering Sydney still has a very young midfield. And Melbourne's midfield are mature, bullish, big body midfielders. Sydney is kind of a younger, speedy midfield. So I'm interested to see when they do match up how that goes. Because I know last year when those two teams played, it was a cracking game. Sydney fell. But you could kind of tell it really was the big body midfielders that turned that game for it. So we'll really have to see how that goes. But flag contender, yes. Flag favorite, a little bit of an overreaction.
That's totally fair. I know that round 12 is going to be a lot of fun. That is when Sydney matches up with Melbourne. It's going to be a little bit until we can get that matchup, but it's probably only going to make it that much more anticipated. One thing I do like, though, out of Sydney's side is that, I mean, just offensively, their midfield has been freaking ridiculous in terms of their output the first couple of rounds. And we saw they struggled a little bit in the first half against GWS round 1, but once the bounces started just going a little bit their way, they absolutely took over that game, and they just kind of took all the momentum away from the GWS side there, and they just put a beat down in one of the best performing teams that we saw in round 1. I know you said earlier that this wasn't the same Geelong team performance-wise that we saw in the previous round, so they might not have played as well, but I think a lot of that credit goes to the performance from Sydney's side. As long as you got Isaac Heaney and Buddy Franklin performing like they have been, that's a potent team that can play some good defense. That's a scary sight for anyone going against them. I guess right now it's really is between them and Melbourne is the top 2 flag contenders. But of course it's easy to default to the D's at this point, you know.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, you also got to look at it is the scary part for Sydney is they're still not even at full strength. I mean, Tom Papley still isn't back yet. He's out with a hamstring injury. So think about that. And I was having a fun conversation with a few Swans members because we were trying to figure out when Papley does come back, who does he come in for? Because right now the team's playing really, really well. And I had some discussions. No, I think he comes back in. It's the question of who comes out. Is it Hayward? Is it Wicks? Is it Armadi this week since they dropped Logan McDonald, put Armadi in the lineups that just released? Does McLean come out? There's a lot of questions on forward wise who comes in, and then Justin McInerney's out as well. He's been out with a knee injury since round 1. Didn't play in this game against Geelong, and they still played really well. Who does McInerney come in for? I mean, does he come in for say a Dylan Stevens? Does he come in for a backline person like a Jake Lloyd who came in for him due to the injury? And Lloyd. He's usually a pretty good player, but did not have as big an impact as he normally has. Do you see a Harry Cunningham drop out? So Sydney kind of has an embarrassment of riches a little bit right now because A, they're not hurt, and B, they've got 2 guys that are hurt that can come back that technically will make the team stronger than they already are, and they've had a couple of impressive performances to start the season off. So this is the Swans team that, scarily enough, could actually even get better than they already are.
I'm sure you're pretty happy about that prospect, I'm sure the rest of Sydney Nation is as well. But let's know your thoughts on the overreactions that we went over on this one. Hit us up in the comments or over on our socials on Twitter and Instagram. Is Crippa the lock for the Brownlow at this point? Will Hawthorn finish top 4? And who do you have as the current flag favorites just a couple rounds into the season? But what we're going to roll into next is a couple of storylines coming from the week. If you're a fan of one of these four teams, you're definitely not feeling the best after these last couple rounds, and some of them might be feeling even worse. But there are currently four 2021 finals teams that sit 0-2 on the season, and those include the Doggies, the poor Essendon Power, Essendon Dons, and the GWS Giants. So, Coach, is it time to hit the panic button for one of these teams, or which one still has hope at making the top 8 by the end of the season?
There's a few that I think are they're breaking the glass on the proverbial panic button, and they're about ready to hit it, if not hit it, and that's Essendon and Port Adelaide are, in my opinion, they're hitting it, going, come on, because Essendon losing Zach Merritt to an injury, a syndesmosis, and a couple of, shall we say, lackluster performances, has a lot of people in Essendon going, did we overestimate last year's performance? And is this team got that sophomore-ish slump after last year's, which, and I don't like to say, because I think Essendon was a heck of a ball club, but I think they're running into the fact that there's still some frailties in the defensive end, and if they can't score because of some of they're not getting the consistent scoring they were last year. I mean, Anthony McDonald-Tippenwood still out. We don't know when he'll be back, unfortunately, due to some personal reasons. Jones is hurt. You've got all sorts of just chaos a little bit with a combination of COVID protocol guys out, guys getting injured, and it's unfortunately it's hitting them at the worst possible time. And then with Port Adelaide, I think you hate saying it, but two injuries have really debilitated this team, and that's Dixon up front and Alir out back.
It's so evident the whole Alir is left.
Unfortunately, this is the same problem Port Adelaide had before they picked up Alir in the trade, is that they are an undersized D, and when you get a good full forward that can lead and is strong, they don't have anybody to them. And if that opens up, the rest, everything else in the game kind of opens up on Port Adelaide a little bit. So it's, if I'm Port, I'm smacking that panic button and wondering. I mean, Hinkley, as I said pre-record, oh man, I mean, his seat has got to be, I mean, just absolutely infernal hot underneath his tail, because the Port Adelaide faithful are livid. I've talked to a few. They are livid about the first two performances of the season, especially after the distasteful ending to last year with the Doggies coming into Adelaide and proverbially handing them their rear end on a silver platter. So to answer it the other way, if I'm the Western Bulldogs and GWS, I'm not panicking right now. I think GWS has that little shining light of Toby Green, but the injury to Phil Davis is gonna bug me a little bit, because yes, you've still got Sam Taylor, who I think Taylor and Phil Davis did a wonderful job on Buddy, and this is a Swans fan talking here. I think they did a wonderful job shutting him down, and I think really kind of kept that game close. If Buddy gets loose, then the game can get out of hand. So they did a wonderful job of keeping that game close. But unfortunately, this is the GWS that I think we discussed a lot last year. It's an inconsistent team that just, they have great game, game, great game, game. And this came at the worst possible time, because this is a game.
Well, it's not even the games. It's great half, horrible half, or even great quarter, horrible quarter. It's so infuriating to watch as a supporter. And the worst part about it is, it was against a Richmond team that you could have buried. They were without Dustin Martin. They were a little bit down. They totally could have won that game.
And in some situations, there's some people in the competition that are probably going, darn it, GWS, because that lets Richmond get some momentum without Dusty Martin. If you let the Tiger Army get behind them and they start winning games, they're a tough team to beat. So a little bit of
tough team to deal with on Twitter.
And then with the Western Bulldogs, I kind of, it's weird to say this, but even if they go 0-3, I wouldn't panic too much, because I mean, look at who they've played. The Melbourne Demons, who a lot of people are talking about, repeat as flag and flag favorites. The Carlton Blues, who we now pretty much can I don't think we're going off too high a limb to say they legitimately can make finals this year and legitimately be a tough team in the finals if they stay healthy and consistent. And then
Absolutely.
round 3 this week was Sydney, a team that a lot of people are starting to kind of jump back on after going into a lot of the season previews. Sydney was a team that a lot of people kind of discussed in the Essendon ranks of dropping out. So you're seeing a lot of people kind of bunny hop back onto the Swans bandwagon after what they did to the Cats. That I think if you're the Doggies, it's weird to say 0-3 and you shouldn't really panic, because you played 3 really good teams. Their issue you run into is that losing Josh Bruce for some odd reason has just sent this forward line into just absolutely insanity. They don't know what they're doing. Naughton's having to try to do everything because nobody else is helping him, and it's really hurting them. And their defensive core has not played as well as they had early in last season. So this is a Doggies team that I think is the exact opposite of the way they were last year. Last year, they were so good at the start of the season and kind of tailed off towards the end. This year, that first game against Melbourne, I mean, it was like the grand final. It was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. And that was kind of the way it was. Against Carlton, I think they ran into a buzzsaw. And that Carlton team was up and about. They had tons of fans behind them. And when you don't have Bailey Smith on there, who's kind of a stabilizer in your midfield, that really hurt them. So the Doggies are the only team I'm not sitting here going, grab the glass breaker, we got to hit the panic button. The Doggies are the only one that I'm not even close to it. I'm like, I look at who they've played first. But 0-3, you start kind of thinking a little bit. I mean, has people figured out how to beat the Doggies?
I guess one of the things to your point about the Doggies is like, yeah, they sit 0-2 right now. Definitely not one of the better spots to be in. But just from what, if you didn't look at the final score of the games, if you just kind of watch it the first couple of rounds, they don't feel like an 0-2 team by any means. Really, they're only 0-2 in the standings. They look good, they feel good, they still have their list there, and so it's just it really just might be a matter of time at this point in GWS. I don't know, man. I don't want to get back to the whole, head coaching conversation like we were having issues with last season. I definitely don't want to hit the bell on that one quite yet again, because obviously that was an overreaction. But there's just something that needs to be done. If it's, my fingers crossed, is something as simple as just having Toby Green back on the field, just the co-captain taking this team over and having them refine themselves and bringing a little bit of consistency to it. Then if you're Port Adelaide, that might be time to start looking at making a trade already at this point to try to salvage an early, a poor start early in the season, kind of like how we're already doing a bunch of trades in our fantasy footy league. Maybe their club needs to take a look at what we're doing.
I don't know. All I know is I listened to a radio podcast out of South Australia, and I can't tell you how many people were like, "Let's just fire Hinkley now and try to get either Buckley or the former Hawthorn coach." And why does this name escape me? Clarko, trying to get one of those two in now to maybe save the season. And I'm just like, man, that's a little aggressive for a Coach Hinkley who, I mean, got you to 2 consecutive preliminary finals. Yes, were they great performances? No. But I think you're jumping the gun just the tiniest bit.
It's really hard, back-to-back preliminary finals. It's really hard to do better than that. And like 90% of the league would be honored to have Hinkley as their head coach at this point. Hey, but as a Giants fan, sure, fire him, please. I will happily take an upgrade. But I don't think it's on him. Their lack of success, I wouldn't put it necessarily like fully on his shoulders in terms of, enough to fire him. It's encroaching on there. But if you want to go back to our first segment with the overreactions, that's definitely an overreaction, you guys. You need to chill. But I don't know. Maybe they're just worried about the showdown happening on Friday, which I don't blame them.
But the thing though is that you understand it a little bit, because you've got a possibility of getting 2 really good. I mean, both of those gentlemen there, are proven coaches. They both have been to grand finals. Clarko's won several flags. So it's almost kind of, you understand this is one of those few seasons where a quick trigger firing won't surprise me if you get a team 04, 05, 06, because, I mean,
That's
look
fair.
who's sitting on the sideline ready to take over. That's, for some people, arguably one of the best coaches to coach AFL in the last 30 years. So, I mean, it's, you almost hate to say it. You kind of don't mind the argument because this is a very unique season with Buckley and Clarko sitting on the sidelines in the wings going, both have already said they don't mind. They want to get back into coaching. The question is, will they be interested in going back this season, or is it something that they're going to wait until after the season's over with, and then they can pick and choose what club they want to go to if multiple jobs come open?
That's a good point right there, man. If you want to keep talking about Nathan Buckley, though, he certainly had an opinion off of what went down this week, because, of course, there's a little bit more controversy coming out from debuting players being listed as medical subs. This happened most recently with Tex Wanganeen and making his debut for the Dons, but he, of course, never played a minute in this one. This is the second time it's happened this season. So, of course, when something like this, there's definitely going to be all sorts of opinions on it. I would say predominantly it's people look down on this action, but Nathan Buckley brought I thought was a very insightful perspective on this situation, and I have a quote here from him. He said, but if you ask that kid, do you want to play a game in the twos, or do you want to come be a sub and stand the silence, and you could be playing in 5 minutes, and you can contribute to an AFL game, 100% of those answers would be, I'm doing that. And he also goes on to say that to sit on the bench and absorb and witness and be a part of an AFL game, from that perspective, is absolutely good for their development. Although he goes on to say that I do understand the criticism that comes with it, but sitting on the other side of the coaching panel, you have to pick the side you think is going to give you the best chance of winning that week. I thought that was a very, very fair perspective to shine on this. So, Donnie, where do you kind of lie on this? I'm sure, of course, you might not be a huge fan of it, but also at the same time, I can definitely see where Coach Buckley's coming from.
I sit on the fence on this one because I understand the argument for it. There have been a lot of people calling out for it. You have to make it to where you can't have a debuting rookie player be the Medi sub. And I go, well, the problem is that then you screw the coaches in selection because they can't pick their best 22 if they're handicapped having to put somebody in the 22 that may be the 23rd best player. So I understand the argument both ways. Like I legitimately, maybe it's the coaching. It's like if the kid is 23rd, he should be the Medi sub. He shouldn't be 22 and then have a guy that you really want playing as your Medi sub because a rule says you can't have a rookie there. But the argument against it, and I understand it, is that this is one of those where it's like, then why do you have him as 23rd then? Why don't you wait until you can get him in the 22 and then debut him where he can actually play? Because the kid gets, I'll say it, screwed a little bit because he gets a game, but he may not play. It's all down to injury. And thankfully, none of the coaches have played the fake injury card and gotten somebody on just to get a fresh body on, which one of the things that when this new injury sub came in, everybody discussed. Everybody was like, well, coaches are going to do this. They're going to talk the doctors into faking injuries so then a guy can come on. And all last season, they were watching these guys like hawks, and it didn't happen. Like the one thing everybody said was going to be abused by the coaches didn't happen. And I appreciate the coaches and the doctors most of all for doing that. And I really appreciate that. But again, could the AFL make a rule? Yes. The AFL can do what they want when it comes to rules, as we see by the insane amount of rule changes over the last 5 years. Well, not everything, but it sure seems like it.
Okay, fair.
I mean, if they wanted to, they
Overreaction.
could. But I appreciate that they're not doing this because the coaches have to be able to do their job. And I'll raise my hand as part of the coaching. Raise my hand as part of the coaching fraternity here. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of people complaining about the coaching and about coaches that go into defensive modes to win games. I've stated it many times and I will state it again. If you want coaches to coach to score points to keep you entertained, don't pay them to win. Don't pay them to win.
That's the best argument.
Because if you pay them to entertain you, you're not always going to win, because sometimes entertaining footy is not always winning footy. And I know that it may contradict to some people's thought processes, but don't pay these coaches to win if you want entertaining footy, because they're not going to do that. They're going to coach to win. And if entertainment goes out the door, well, I'll be darned. I'd rather have a win than be entertained, shall we say, which I know is controversial for some people.
I don't think you're crazy for wanting to win as a head coach of a team. In fact, Donnie, I think that's exactly what your job is to do. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I guess really what it comes down to in this situation is, to do this, it's good from a coaching and from an actual game perspective, but it's negative from, like, I guess, a moral or like a personal feeling kind of perspective. If you look at just game-wise, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you look at the only reason why people don't like this is the possible emotional or mental impact on the player and his family, and the stuff that goes in with that. But besides that, if you're looking just from a game perspective, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. So that's why, like, I'm glad they're I'm glad they're not putting a rule in with this. It's unnecessary. I can feel with the side against this, but in terms of just the game, it's really not that bad of a thing.
Well, here's the thing, and I understand it. Again, the kid's family comes all the way from Western Australia to watch the kid debut, and he doesn't play.
Yeah.
So I understand the feeling.
Absolutely.
I understand the emotional response to this.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is that does the kid want to be playing at the cost of his team winning a game of footy? Because if you ask it in the long run, what's more important? Does the kid want to debut, or does the kid want to be part of a winning footy club? Like, I mean, if you go down for it, 99.9% of kids that are going to play footy, they want to win. They want to win. They want to win a premiership. They want to win games. Yes, they want to play, but in the long run, if their team wins a premiership, they're part of it. Like, I think that's one of those where it's, again, you have to take the bad with the good. There's going to be some points where emotionally and morally we're going to have to kind of bite our tongue and let it go, which is frustrating, especially with the way some things are. But this is one of those, do I understand it? Yes. I would put my coach's hat on, and I would find a way to make sure that if a kid's going to debut, he's going to debut in the 22. I'm not going to have him as a medi sub. I would, as the coach, I would hope that you have enough sense to know that if they're going to bring their parents in, they need to play. They can't be a medi sub. That's on the coaches. You can't rule that into the game. I think it bastardizes the game way too much. So this is almost one of those, you almost want to lean on the coaches and go, hey, think about it. If you're going to have a rookie as a medi sub, then make sure that his parents aren't coming in. If his parents are going to come in, either get him into the 23 or tell him that they're debuting, but tell the parents they're a medi sub and they may not play, so they don't come for no reason. Does that make sense?
Let the coach do the nice thing, but don't force the coach to do said thing. I think that's
100%
super reasonable. Right. I think that's fair. And let us know what you guys think as well. Are we on base with this one? Are we a little off? What do you guys think? Obviously, there is a bit of a moral dilemma going on here, but should there actually be a rule in place? That's a big question. Let us know about that in the comments, or, of course, over on our socials. But before we get to Coach Hess's amazing and hard to choose, especially in the four-line team of the round and our tips. We're going to hit you guys with a little bit of what the blank. And this goes in from, we debuted this onto the Footy Show last week. Of course, for those that don't know how this works, we got 3 statements for you, and there's a blank at either the beginning, the middle, or the end. And it's up to Coach Donnie to fill it in with whatever he chooses, whether it be a grunt, a full essay, or just a sentence or word. And of course, sound off in the comments on this one as usual. But starting us off, the first statement, Donnie, for what the blank is. Buddy's 1,000th goal was blank.
Was once in a lifetime. And I state this, and I'm one of those, I agree with what so many pundits say. This could be the last ever time somebody kicks 1,000 in the VFL AFL. Like, I hope that isn't true. I really do, because it's such a cool moment. It's such a cool accomplishment. But legitimately, as they kind of broke down the math, you have to average something around 70 or 80 goals and play 17 to 18 seasons to be able to kick 1,000. And with the average player only playing about 3 seasons, and many players, including Coleman medal winners in the last few years, barely getting to 70 or 80. It's an accomplishment that takes a lot of luck and a lot of skill to be able to pull off. And with the new styles of the grid style zone defense that so many coaches play nowadays to kind of even the game out, I just don't know if you're ever going to get it unless you get a guy that has like a magical 100 goal season, which is just as difficult. So it's a once in a lifetime thing, because we may not see it again. Like, to be able to see that live is something, even with me over here in the States, like, that was, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was literally
I'm
watching
beyond jealous of
history.
your friend that was in attendance. Beyond jealous.
Oh, I had a few. I can't tell you how many videos and pictures I have of mates who are Swans supporters that were at the SCG, that were there, that were either on the ground or taking videos of people running on the ground. I mean, it was absolutely outstanding, but it was a once in a lifetime moment that, I mean, you can't put into words how cool it is. And it got AFL back on Pat McAfee.
Yes.
But,
the one thing
we'll state it like that on what I actually thought about it, because the fact is, like, I later heard that in some time in that radio call he couldn't remember how much a goal was, and I went, "Oh my God, really? No.
Oh,
Seriously.
how the mighty have fallen." But luckily for all of you, Pat McAfee doesn't matter, because he got me into the sport, and now you got me. So I'll bring the bit of a Pat McAfee-esque feeling to the game. As long as you stay here, stay subscribed and following, you're going to get something that much more and better, because we actually consistently talk about this sport, and not just when it's convenient for us. And I do know how much a goal is worth, and that is...
Oh boy. 6 points.
6 points.
Oh my gosh. Like, I saw the video, and I mean, it's cool. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping that somehow it would find its way over to mainstream, like Sports Center or some of the news channels over here. Like, I was sharing it to every American that I could.
Doing my best, man.
You got to see this.
Never seen, well, the cool thing, I've never seen, like, the rush in the field like this. To see 20,000 people on the cricket grounds like that was ridiculous.
Let's hold our horses a little bit. It does happen over here in the States. It's just not as feverish as it
felt
is.
different. It felt different.
I mean, if you think about it, college football upsets, they rush the field all the time. College basketball,
tear down the goalposts, the good stuff.
Yeah, they rush the field. So this isn't something that never happens in the States. I mean, let's not jump that particular.
Well, I guess what I mean by that is that nothing I've seen before in the States has felt like this.
No, and the thing is that it's never happened during the game. Like, I think that's the other the kind of caveat that I say is that this happened during the game. There were still over almost 6 minutes left in the game when this particular thing happened, where most of the time in the college sports where we see it happen here in the States, it's once the final horn or siren or bell or chime or whatever goes, that's when they rush the field. So they don't have to clear the field or clear the court as quickly. So I think that's kind of the massive difference between the two. But it was just, the visuals were so cool. Like seeing the blimp footage of that whole thing happen.
Yes.
It looked like ants, but it was fantastic vision.
So cool. It was so cool. I love it. And if we never get to see this again, I'm glad I jumped on the footy bandwagon just in time to see this then, because it was a hell of a moment. But going from a current superstar and someone that will always be a legend of the sport, and Buddy Franklin, Donnie, it's time for you to take a little bit of a swing and to peer into your crystal ball and see if we could see the future. Because statement number 2 is blank is the AFL's next superstar.
Well, if you ask most people, it'd be Jason Horne-Francis, and it's hard to argue that the young man has not lived up to the hype. And he's played very well in his first 2 games. Yes, I mean he's on a team. It's like many rookies over here in the States. You get thrown into the wolves a little bit. You kind of have to survive, shall we say? It's hard not to argue that him. But I would also throw the younger Dacos in there. I mean, he's stepped on. I mean, he hasn't had as big an impact, but he's on a team that's played much better. But the young Dacos had quite a heck of a first game. I mean, this has been a season where there have been some youngsters that have played really, really well. I mean, I could probably go through each team and probably tell you a youngster that's probably playing super well. I mean, look at Matty Rowell. Matty Rowell is back to what he was his first year when he played really, really well. There's too many to name on some of these teams. Tom Green on the GWS Giants is another youngster that I think could have an incredible career with his big body and incredible play. If you go across the harbor with the Swans, you've got 5 or 6 guys that I think. Chad Warner was kind of the talk of the town, not only in Sydney, but also in Melbourne because of his disposal ability, him coming back this round. And who was the guy that got to Buddy? Who's the one that passed the ball for Buddy to mark to kick his 1,000? Chad Warner. So, I mean, there's so many. I mean, let's go to Adelaide and Josh Rochelle. The young kids come in and been a goal snake for them without Tex Martin. So there's too many. But if I had to wrap it down to, I would say that the two top kids from this draft, Nick Dacos and Jason Horne-Francis, I think are 2 absolute superstars in the making. I think they're going to be where Petrarca and Bontempelli are in the next 5 years, where they're fighting for Brownlow medalists and potentially premierships because they're that good a player. So it's such a great young crop of young players that it's going to be fun watching the AFL in the next few years because you've got some absolute superstars.
It's loaded, and what's the cool thing about the young talent that we're seeing around the league is it's like there's not really like a centralized location for them. They're pretty well spread out, and so not only is that going to lead to excitement, but it's long-term success for the league as well.
100% agree.
Hey, and as long as the Giants got one of those young possible stars, I am 100% on board with it. But the last statement we got for you this week, Donnie, is some interesting reports, of course, coming out of the Richmond side of things, and that is that the Dustin Martin retirement rumors, emphasis on the plural of rumors, are blank.
Ridiculous. Absolutely and completely ridiculous. This man has been through a lot in the last 8 months. I mean,
yes.
Lacerated kidney, loses like 12 kilos, and then unfortunately around Christmas loses his father, who he was very close to, over the Christmas holiday. I mean, these rumors are ridiculous. Leave this man alone. Let him grieve. Let him handle his personal life. And then if he wants to play footy, let him play footy, but just leave the man alone. These rumors are ridiculous. There's people talking he could be back in 2 weeks. There's people talking that he's going to retire. There's people talking that he could go to Sydney. I'm just like, sit down, shut up, leave the guy alone. I mean, Dusty Martin is one of those guys that I almost like, and this is not the Sydney in me fan here. I almost want him to get out of Melbourne. because I think he's had to deal with so much crap there that he shouldn't have to go through. And I think that's the most
Melbourne
frustrating.
media is freaking ridiculous, man.
It's kind of like New York media when it comes to the New York Yankees. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. And that's kind of the thing that kind of stinks. So it's like, I mean, I'd float this out there, and I don't care who I offend. Tigers Army, I'm sorry. If I'm Dusty, you want to know where I'd love to see him go? The Gold Coast Suns.
I was just thinking that. No, I'm not even joking.
Go up to the Gold Coast, young man, and enjoy anonymity and be able to play your footy and to be able to not have to worry about walking outside and getting 8 cameras stuck in your face. And that's perfect. And in some situations, that's one of the reasons why Buddy Franklin left Hawthorn and came up to Sydney. He was tired of the fishbowl that is Melbourne. Like, as much as some people love Melbourne when it comes to footy, it can be overwhelming for somebody that wants a private life, and that's the way Dusty is. So I'm going to float it out there. I'm sorry, Tigers Army. Comment section, I can already feel the hate coming for me from the Tigers fans. But if I'm Dusty, I find a way to Gold Coast. I find a way to Queensland or to New South Wales any way possible, because I think your life around footy will be so much easier. Because you won't have to worry about being the superstar guy that is Dusty. You can kind of become just another guy in Queensland or in New South Wales. So we'll have to see. Do I see it happening? I think he's too loyal to Richmond. I don't think he'll do it. But honestly, like, I would love to see it. Like, again, Tigers Army, I know you're going to hate me for a while, and I love all of you guys. I love your passion. It's absolutely fantastic. 100,000, I love it. But go to Gold Coast. Go enjoy being just another guy. Like, go enjoy your footy and be able to not have to worry about being the man. So, I don't know. But they're just ridiculous. Great. Yeah. Dusty, I send my thoughts to him, and I hope he gets the help that he needs, and he gets himself some closure to the point where if he does come back to play footy, he can play footy and not have to worry about it. But if he doesn't, if he retires, a heck of a career, going to be a Hall of Famer, should be a legend. But I don't want to push this guy into something that he's going to regret. And it really is frustrating hearing all these people, when's Dusty? Shut up. Let Dusty be by himself. He'll come back when he wants to come back. Just stop.
There's a lot more things that are way more important than footy ever will be. Give his time, and this is just. It's almost annoying. You feel bad for the man just for being hounded over stuff like this, and if not directly, then indirectly, with everyone just trying to talk about this more and more. It's just unnecessary. He'll come back when he wants to, if and when he wants to. But then also, just given his time, because when he does, if he does choose to come back, that's probably going to be when he's going to be playing his best footy instead of having to deal with both at the same time. So it might not like it, but this is going to be best for literally everyone in the long term. So I don't know, have a little compassion for the guy because he lost his dad. I don't think that's a horrible thing to say to the media members. I keep on trying to hound them on this, but they're just trying to do the jobs, and let's not run to the whole media spiel we had to talk about last round.
Sometimes the media can be a great thing. Sometimes the media can be a bad thing. It just kind of depends on how they want to approach it. Like I said, I understand the job they're trying to do, but there are times when it's like, I don't care about a story if it's going to cost, if it's going to affect somebody's personal life.
I 100% love that statement. And also, speaking about loving things, it's time for the team you're going to love the most, the only one that matters across the land, across the seas, in fact, across halfway around the world. This is still the only one that matters, and it's time for Coach Donnie's team of the round. So go ahead, Coach, take her away.
Oh man, this is
also
a fun
love
one,
that
especially,
segue. Just
especially
saying.
when we. Oh yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. I have to say it right now. The forwards were absolutely ridiculous because we had 10 guys all kicking 4 goals or more. So this would be fun to see what you guys think of this. Let's go to the team of the week. Like I always say, a game is won with defense. We'll start with the defenders. Start with Western Bulldogs. Bailey Dale, 21 disposals, a goal, 3 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 6 score involvements, 5 marks, and 441 meters gained. We jump over over to Adelaide, and Jordan Dawson continuing to make an impact even from the defensive side of the footy. At 28 disposals, a goal, 5 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 5 score involvements, 11 marks, and 536 meters gained. Essendon's Tom Cutler, 15 disposals, a goal, a behind, 5 score involvements, 7 marks, and 356 meters gained. A gentleman that had a lot of work for West Coast in their waffle side is Liam Duggan, 18 disposals, a goal, 7 intercept possessions, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 435 meters gained. Also in that same game would be North Jack Zeeble with 29 disposals, 8 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 5 score involvements, 14 marks, 2 tackles, and 487 meters gained. Last but not least is St. Kilda's Josh Battle, 21 disposals, 13 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 3 score involvements, 13 marks, 5 tackles, and 387 meters gained. Let's go to the ruck position. This is going to be kind of a shocker for you. The ruck position starting would be Melbourne's Luke Jackson. 21 disposals, 2 goals, a goal, assist, 4 score involvements, 5 marks, 7 clearances, 4 tackles, 16 hitouts, and 328 meters gained for the young ruckman that I think a lot of West Coast and Fremantle Dockers fans are looking, going, please let this young man run out of contract, because he would be an incredible addition to bring back to WA. The mids see a lot of very well-known names. Carlton, first up is Carlton's Patrick Cripps, as we said, 35 disposals, 2 goals, a behind, 3 intercept possessions, 6 score involvements, 7 marks, 6 clearances, and 233 meters gained. A monster game by Brisbane's Lachie Neale, 41 disposals, 2 goals, 2 behind, 7 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 9 score involvements, 6 marks, 12 clearances, and 778 meters gained. Gold Coast Noah Anderson, 25 disposals, 2 goals, 3 score involvements, 8 clearances, 3 tackles, and 521 meters gained. Making up for Dusty is Richmond's Shy Bolton, 17 disposals, 2 goals, 2 behinds, 8 score involvements, 6 marks, 4 clearances, and 537 meters gained. Wrapping up the starters would be GWS's Josh Kelly, 26 disposals, 2 goals, a behind, a goal, assist, 8 score involvements, 7 marks, 3 clearances, and 406 meters gained. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Goal Fest starts now. We start with the forwards. One of the first ones, Carlton's Charlie Curnow, 16 disposals, 5 goals, a goal, assist, 8 score involvements, 4 marks, 3 tackles, and 514 meters gained. If Buddy Franklin did not kick his 1,000th goal, I think everybody would be talking about this young man after his performance against the Geelong Cats, and that's Sydney's Isaac Heaney, 21 disposals, 5 goals, 7 score involvements, 5 tackles, and 255 meters gained. Also in this game is Geelong's Brad Close, 18 disposals, 4 goals, behind, 4 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 10 score involvements, 5 marks, 5 tackles, and 236 meters gained. Helping out Hawthorn to get a big win on the road at Port is Mitch Lewis, 11 disposals, 5 goals, a goal, assist, 7 score involvements, 7 marks, and 200 meters gained. North's Nick Larkey, 16 disposals, 6 goals, 3 behinds, 3 intercept possessions, 9 score involvements, 7 marks, and 256 meters gained. Rounding out the starters is West Coast's Willie Rioli with 18 disposals, 4 goals, 3 intercept possessions, 8 score involvements, 4 marks, 3 clearances, and 376 meters gained. To be jumped to the bench, starting with our defender, Freo's Luke Ryan, 32 disposals, 13 intercept possessions, a goal, assist, 3 score involvements, 13 marks, 5 tackles, and 367 meters gained. Our midfield representative is also from Freo, and Andrew Brayshaw, 40 disposals, a goal, 2 behind, 6 intercept possessions, 8 score involvements, 10 marks, 4 clearances, 8 tackles, and 628 meters gained. Our ruck representative is the Western Bulldogs' Tim Ingram, English, 24 disposals, a goal, 3 intercept possessions, 6 score involvements, 6 marks, 21 hitouts, and 321 meters gained. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. You know what? I couldn't not give this wonderful gentleman a tip. The final spot on the bench goes to Sydney's Buddy Franklin, getting his 1,000th goal, but he had 10 disposals, 4 goals, 5 score involvements, 7 marks, and 285 meters gained. There were so many great performances in the forwards with so many players kicking, but I had to give Buddy a nod because you kick 1,000, but you kick 4 goals in a game that you really, really helped kind of put away. You got to give the nod to the Budster. So that is my Coach Hess's round team of the week.
That is one hell of a list. And imagine just even having half of those forwards on your fantasy team, you probably won by about 2,000 points.
Some incredible performances. But it was just a great round of footy, and the offensive explosions it was really nice to see some of the great results, and to see 10 guys kick 4 goals or more in the entire league was absolutely fantastic. It was fun to watch.
It definitely was an entertaining round, to say the least. So fingers crossed that round 3 keeps the momentum going when it comes to the entertainment side of things. And speaking about round 3, we're going to wrap things up here with our round 3 tipping. There's some interesting matchups here, and some of them where, the majority of people probably on the right spot here, but some of them I chose a couple against them. Of course, it worked out last round. I had a bold pick or two, and they both kind of paid off. So, I'll just chalk that up to luck and no skill whatsoever when it comes to that. But Coach, let's get into our tipping here. We're going to start things off with the first game of the round. That is your Sydney Swans taking on the Doggies. We got 57% of the world taking the Swans. And will you be joining them like I am here?
Normally I'm very leery about games like this, tipping the Swannies, but I think with the way Brisbane has played defensively has not been very strong. The way Sydney is playing, I think they have a little bit of an advantage in the ruck, and I think their defense is going to be able to hold Naughton down a little bit. I'm going to tip the Swans in this one, but I think this is a good game. I think tomorrow morning will be a fantastic game of footy to watch. I think the Swans win it, but not by much.
Swans are definitely, I would say, my favorite underdog pick of the week. They're right now seeing the odds wise $2.08, where you got $1.75 to the Doggies on this one. Definitely a little bit of a different betting odd margin in our next one. And are you Melbourne against Essendon? And I'm excited with the only team here that makes sense, and that's the Dons. No, I'm just kidding. It's the D's.
The Demons are so good, with Essendon being as woeful as they have been playing. As much as I love the Dons, I got to go D's here. I think this is one of those. Can the Dons keep it close, or can the D's really put a hurting on this Dons team it really is struggling right now?
The next one should be a pretty fun one. We take it to the showdown, one of the games that's happening on the Friday, and of course a little bit of controversy coming off of that, of course. But we got the Crows and the Port Adelaide Power, and I'm rolling with the 16% of the world that's going with the Crows. And I think I saw maybe one expert tipping them as well. So I don't know. I'm gonna have a fun time with this one.
This is probably the most least confident pick I'm gonna have the entire round, because I see why a lot of people are tipping the Crows, because why some people are tipping the Crows because of how, but I just think there's enough talent on Port in Adelaide right now. I don't know what type of team they want to be. I don't know if they want to be a ball possession team. I don't know if they want to be a pressure team. I at least Port somewhat knows what they're doing. Their issue has been scoring. I don't think Adelaide really gives them a lot of danger when it comes to scoring. So I'm going to tip Port in this one. But I'm with you. Like this is probably one of the weirdest showdowns I think I've ever seen, because normally you have one team that's playing well, one team that's or you have two great teams. Very rarely do you have a showdown where both teams are not playing well. So I'm very interested to see how this one goes. To kind of explain a little bit what you were talking about is that we technically have two Friday games in the early morning. The reason that they are overlapping is the original AFLW Grand Final was supposed to be this week. That's why they had moved it, so then that the grand final would have clear air. There would be no men's game while the women's game was playing. Well, that kind of got shot,
right?
Well, that got shot in the you-know-what. So now there's actually two preliminary finals this week that are also still going to be getting that free air, so they couldn't adjust the times. So unfortunately, I do understand a lot of people in Adelaide are not happy, because the showdown is something that they've always wanted on prime time on a Friday, and they're getting it, but not really getting it, I think, the way they expected. So, and then I'd also like to, before we finish our tips, can I please put my tips out for the AFLW 2 preliminary grand finals at the end of this? You don't have to tip, because I know you haven't been watching it as much as me, but I'd like to throw that in at the end if you don't mind.
Absolutely, we can do that. Awesome. We'll save that for the end here. A little bit of icing on the proverbial cake, and this is my tip with the Crows. Is definitely going to be my bold, at least one bold one of the round, and we'll see if this one's able to pay off as well as they did last round. Now we got the Giants and the Gold Coast Suns, and oh boy, if the Giants fall to 0-3 to this team, I will not be all too happy. So I'm rolling with the Giants. I have hope. This is the third time this year I've tipped them. Let's hope it's not a jinx.
I'm gonna tip the Giants in this one. I think the Giants have just a little too much talent, and even losing Phil Taylor, I still think they're a better club. But this is one I'm also not super confident with, because I think Gold Coast has been playing better. They really pushed Melbourne a lot more than I think some people expected. So I'm going to tip GWS in this one, but this is another one. This will not shock me if this goes to Gold Coast, because Gold Coast is playing much, much better footy to start this season. But they've done this before. For 7 games, played well, and then airplane dive into the ocean. So.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this game. I'm going to be very nervous, and definitely I'm trying to do my best to lower expectations. And I'm trying to lower expectations for the Collingwood Magpies, because sweet damn, I kind of like riding on this train. Shout out to the greatest footy player of all time, Mason Cox, and you cannot tell me otherwise. Him and his glasses are just Hall of Fame bound, and I think it's safe to say on that one. Not an overreaction, by the way. But the next game is actually one that I went back and forth on a lot, because, we have the Magpies, we have the Geelong Cats. We've seen 2 different versions of the Cats. We've seen one consistent version of the Magpies. I'm going with the Cats, but this one, I struggle with this one.
I understand that there's a few more people hopping on the Magpies for this tip because of the way the Cats played, but I think the Swans are just a little bit of a better team than Collingwood is, so I think that's a little bit. And Geelong was woefully bad. Well, Geelong was woefully bad in front of goal, and I think that really helped. Okay. I mean, they out inside 50 them. A lot of the categories actually did go to Geelong. It was just Sydney was more accurate on the night, and I think that's really what kind of changed that game. So I'm going to tip the Cats in this one. Yes, Collingwood plays the MCG pretty well. But I'm going to go with the Cats. I think they bounce back. I think they kind of get the little kick in the butt that they needed. And I think they bounce back, and they bounce back well against the Collingwood team. I think a little bit of a benefactor of a couple of teams that haven't played as well. So I'm going to tip the Cats in this one.
Now, the next game, in terms of the spread of the odds, this is the biggest one. If you throw it back to Melbourne and the Dons, that was a 97% tipping rate to the Ds. Now we got 98%, or at least according to AFL.com, 98% are going with the Brisbane Lions against the North Melbourne Roos, and it's kind of hard to disagree with that.
This one, I just think Brisbane is just so good. I think North Melbourne, they capitalized on a waffle team last week. I think we kind of see what North Melbourne really is like. I'm hoping North Melbourne can somewhat keep this game close. It's not going to be an absolute disaster, but the possibilities of it becoming a blowout are they're there.
Yeah.
At the GABA, Lions will win. Lions should win this one, and they should win this one easily. But you never know. Maybe North Melbourne finally, after getting that wins, got some confidence, and they get kind of back that rough and gritty side that they had a lot last year. So
This next one, I really want to tip Hawthorn against Carlton. I really wanted to. I couldn't fully bring myself to do that just because I do have a surprising amount of faith in Carlton at this point, a little bit more than Hawthorn. But hey, man, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks take this one and just totally derail the Carlton hype train and take all of that hype into themselves and just be the next big thing in this league.
I think this is one of those where I look at who Carlton's played in the first two games. I look at Hawthorn, who they played in the first two games. And I kind of go, I'm going to tip this to Carlton. I think Carlton's a better team. I think Carlton's had a tougher challenge and have really stepped up to the plate when they needed to. I'm going to tip Carlton in this one, but this is another one a lot like the Gold Coast Suns game. I see one team winning it, but it will not shock me if the other does, because it's just kind of the way footy is the way footy has been the last few years, is that as soon as you think it's a slam dunk, that's when all heck breaks loose. So I'm going to tip Carlton, but I'm going to give the Hawks a little bit more of a sniff in this one than I think some people are.
I like that. Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game early. So probably will. If you're going to bet an underdog, I would definitely be betting on Hawthorn this round. We got Carlton at $1.54, while Hawthorn ran $2.49. So this underdog tip would definitely grant you a little bit of that moolah. The second to last game is going to be the St. Kilda Saints and the Richmond Tigers. And St. Kilda did me well in my tips from last round. And you know what? I think this is going to be an extremely close game. The betting line displays that as well. I'm going with the 23%. Let's go St. Kilda Saints once more.
This is one of those, like I said, if I'm the rest of the competition, I'm angry with GWS because I think they might have woke up Richmond. It's okay. I'm really angry
monster.
At them too. St. Kilda, I think, capitalized on a Freo team that's not kicking goals. This Richmond team they can score, which I think they capitalized a little bit on that fact. I'm going to tip Richmond in this one, but I'm with you. I can see this potentially. I mean, St. Kilda's been pesky. I mean, their injury worries has been the issue with me, is that they still, Rowan Marshall's having to try to do a majority of the ruck, and I think it really kind of takes him out of what he's really good at, and being that resting full forward that can come in and pitch hit in the ruck occasionally. So I'm going to tip Richmond in this one, but St. Kilda will be in this game.
I think so too. And finishing things off with another rivalry game, Donnie. Forgive my ignorance, everyone listening. This one, I know there's a showdown, there's a derby. Which one is
the Western Derby?
Western Derby. Thank you.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I was thinking with. I didn't want to be fully wrong on that one. At least they're not Richmond fans when you get something wrong about them. Hey, but what would you know? Oh man, this show's kind of turned a little bit of a Richmond hate fest. We love you guys. I mean, just don't hate us. Hate the concession stands at the MCG. All right, now that's where you really have to throw your energy. But we got the Eagles and the Fremantle Dockers in this one. I'll roll with the Dockers, the 73% of the world in this one. I mean, it does help when they can actually fill up a list.
This is one I honestly jump back and forth, because I know the Eagles had so many outs last week. They should get, it sounds like they're going to get a good portion of them back. And the scary part about it is that some of them that are coming back are superstars. I mean, you get the Kennedys back, you get the Kellys back. I mean, you've got some high-quality players. I think Freo is going to do enough, because there are still enough missing pieces in this West Coast team. But I think this should be a much closer tip than what it's looking like. I at least the tipping app that I have is 77% Freo. I'm surprised this isn't a 50-50 tipper, because I've seen a lot of people that are on the West Coast on this because of the fact Freo has had issues scoring. So I'm going to tip Freo in this one, but this is another one I bounce back and forth, because, again, West Coast ins that it sounds like they're going to get back in this week are some impact players. So tip Frio, but I'm leery on this particular tip. So now to go off this, I will kind of preview this real quick myself, since I am the AFLW and AFL footy correspondent. We have
He's
two
the man,
absolutely
the footy man.
Magnificent preliminary finals games between the four best teams in the entire competition this year, as the Adelaide Crows host the Fremantle Dockers at Adelaide Oval, which will be fantastic for the young ladies to get to play on that marvelous ground there. I think the Crows are just too good. This is the last year that this Crows team is going to be all together. I think, like the last dance at Michael Jordan, I think they want to go out on top. They are super laser-like focused. I think Frio, they're a good team, but can they handle the absolute avalanche of talent of Ebony Marinoff, Pritchard, Aaron Phillips, Stevie Lee Thompson, so many solid players. I just think the Crows are going to have a little too much. Even with the 3 weeks off, I think the Crows are going to have just a little too much for this Frio Dockers team. But I think this is going to be one hell of a game. And then the other preliminary final at the MCG, the first ever AFLW game at the MCG, sees the reigning premiers, the Brisbane Lions, taking on the Melbourne Demons, a team a lot of people at the start of the year saw as a potential flag favorite. This is going to be the game of this round. You have two incredible teams. I think the team that wins this is going to give the Crows headaches, because Brisbane's got a ton of speed and Melbourne's got just an incredible roster with Taylor Harris, one of the best goal kickers in the entire competition. I think the D's pull this one out on the MCG, but this is going to be an incredible game. I say to you, people that watch this, watch these two preliminary finals, because this is going to be champagne footy. This is going to show you that the women's game gets the finances and gets the backing. This could be the product you get all the time with women's footy. I see a grand final of the Melbourne Demons versus the Adelaide Crows. I can talk about that next week. What an incredible AFLW season. Thank you, Ross, for letting me have that. So I cannot wait. Both those games will be Friday night. They're going to be at decent times. So if you get a chance, Ross, please watch these two teams. If you have any questions on the players, please let me know, because these are four incredibly good footy teams, and you will enjoy the footy that you get to watch. And the best part is the game's a little bit shorter and a little bit faster, so it's really quick, so you don't have to worry about staying up for 4 hours to watch one game.
Well, you guys certainly heard it, man. Go ahead, get your eyes on that television screen, computer screen, I don't know, iPhone screen, whatever the hell you watch it on, because those are sure to excite. I know I have a plethora of screens, all right. I watch on my phone, my computer, my laptop, my TV. So you get a pretty good variety here. And speaking of, I don't even know where I was going with that one. We're done. We're wrapping things up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to our round 2 AFL breakdown. Of course, I mean, what a way this season has gone off, man. This has been an amazing start. These last couple of rounds have been beyond exciting. I mean, not just if we didn't even include the Buddy goal, it's still a tremendous round, still a bunch of highlights coming from it. I mean, plenty of goal of the year contenders have already taken place in the first couple of rounds, and we could not be more excited. And we especially cannot be more excited to have all of you guys on as well, because you truly make what we do that much more fun. Before I cap things off, I shouted out the aforementioned Czechoslovakia last round. Donnie quickly corrected my geography. But we're going to give a shout out to Barbados. The listeners in Barbados this round, the less than 1% of you, but you're still there. Thank you for listening. I had no idea about that. I mean, obviously I knew about Barbados. I didn't know you guys really listened to this. I thought it was just a vacation island. So I will correct my thoughts on that one. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us. Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like I said, YouTube, Anchor. Anywhere you find anything, we are there, whether you want us to be or not. And you can check us out, Instagram, Twitter. Donnie's also on there as well, at Coach Hess 40 on either platform. So go ahead, go check him out as well, although he doesn't post at all on Instagram, go catch his Twitter because you'll actually find some good stuff there. So my thoughts, I hope that you guys have a great weekend when it comes to your fantasy footy. I know I would love a little bit more luck, but Coach, your thoughts on round 2 of the AFL season in one word or phrase?
Intriguing, because you've got some matchups, you got some teams that you're going to get the measuring stick on whether they're legit or not. So we're going to come in round 3, and I think maybe see the ladder change just the tiniest bit if a few things go certain ways. So it's very intriguing round of footy.
I love it. Go ahead and spread this out thing. I love you guys that listen. Go and give it to your friends, family, enemies, co-workers. I don't care. Give it to a random guy on the bus that you might sit next to if you even use public transportation. I am declaring war on Australia. I would love to take over your country. Thank you, and please. But we will catch you guys next week after round 3 of the AFL season, and go ahead and catch the preliminary finals of the AFLW finals as well. Have a good one, guys.